Hi, women. My name's Karma, and welcome back to season 3 of the Free Birthing in Color movement. This is a space to hear the stories of women of color and Indigenous women sharing their experiences of living, working, and birthing in their power. If you feel like you have a story to share and would like to have your words and your voice amplified within this movement, please reach out to me. All information about submitting your story can be found within the show notes below or on the Free Birthing in Color Instagram page. The Instagram handle is at freebirthing_in color. Just send me a DM or find the submission forms within the profile. I look forward to hearing from you and making space for your experiences to be witnessed. And now I'm extremely grateful to have shared time and energy with our next guest. Here is her story. Hello, Regina. Welcome to the
Hello.
Free Birthing Color movement. I'm very happy to have you share your stories with me today.
Oh, I'm so happy to be here. Thank you.
Yes. Yeah, I'm really excited. Your energy is just so lovely. And the little bit of chat that we had just before recording has got me all excited and hyped up and ready to go. So, the first question that I would love to ask you is what is your ancestry and lineage that you're passing down to your children?
I love this question and it is loaded, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if we think about just, genetic ancestry, my family is from the Caribbean, they're from Haiti. And so that's where my lines lie, as far as I know, from generation to generation to generation. And of course, I know there were moments or a time where we came from Africa as well, but we don't know which country. I'm pretty sure it's West Africa somewhere, but we can't pinpoint it. And then there's also like lines of Syrian ancestry, lines of Cuban ancestry. Maybe I know there's the native population in Haiti was the Taino Native Americans, and I know there's some of that in there too. So
Mm-hmm.
but really, I just know that we're from the islands. I feel that we are so connected to the water,
Yeah.
and that's what I'm giving back to my children too, that connection to the land, earth, water. So that's what I feel when I
Mm-hmm.
do that. And of course, I try to infuse my culture as much as humanly possible into my children, and like also the the way that we view family in Haiti too, and the way that my family's always, like, raised me and kind of hugged me through life. In
Mm-hmm.
a lot of ways, I'm trying to show my kids that too.
Mm-hmm.
We definitely live in a place that's very different, but we are by the water here. I'm in
Yeah.
Maine.
Okay.
So, we spend a lot of time by the ocean. We spend a lot of time talking to the ocean,
Mm-hmm.
thanking the ocean, lots of things, because I feel such a deep connection there, and I feel it from generations and generations before. So
Mm-hmm.
that's what I'm trying to impart on my children.
I love that. That's such a beautiful answer. And I love how you've incorporated this element of water as, that is part of the ancestry that you're passing down. That's so beautiful. And it's just, yeah, it goes so deep. That's why I love asking this question because the answers always blow me away all of the time. One, we've got the connection of both being Haitian ancestry,
Mhm.
but yeah, I love how you bring in that elemental feeling for yourself and then passing that down to your children. It's so special, and we really need to be imparting that into our children that they can lean on the elements, whether it's water, whether it's air, whether it's the earth, whether it's fire, in whatever way, because, we are part of this great mother and she is a part of us as well.
Yeah.
So I'm just so grateful you said that. Thank you.
Oh, of course. Thank you for asking that. I've never been asked that question before, and I just really love it.
Yeah, it's a fun one. It's a great one. um Okay, so then speaking of the children that you have, I would love to ask you this second really lovely question. Where did your motherhood journey begin?
Oh, I love this question because my motherhood journey began when my cousin got pregnant.
Ah, okay.
I have a cousin who we're just so connected. I have a sister and I love my sister, but it was always my sister, my cousin, and my aunt, the four of us. My aunt is the same age as my sister and my cousin, and
Okay.
they're all like kind of the three trio persons. And we
Mhm.
grew up together. And I've
Mhm.
always just been super connected to this particular cousin. Like what she does, I do. And she
Mhm.
goes, I go. Like I would always
Mhm.
follow her around. And then we got older and we would just be in very similar life stages. And so she got pregnant and like it was like a light bulb just went off in my body. And I was like,
Mm.
I want to support you any way that I can. At
Mhm.
the time that I guess it started before that, because before that I was just walking around minding my own business in the streets of Brooklyn where I lived at the
Mhm.
and I happened upon this place that, this mansion in Brooklyn, they did yoga, they had like, various organizations in the mansion, they had like different events that would go on. So I was
Mhm.
doing a yoga class there and saw this flyer for doula training. And I was
Okay.
like, what's a doula? Like, this seems interesting. I've always been really curious.
Yeah.
And I went to the orientation to see if you wanted to do the training, and I was just blown away. I was blown
Mm.
away. And that was, I think, my initiation into birth, but I wasn't necessarily thinking about motherhood yet. It was just like birth was on my mind. It was like a really big thing for me. And I was in Brooklyn, so this doula training place, it's called Ancient Song. She
Mm.
is Black. Everybody coming through is Black or
Mhm.
people of color. And it just felt like home a little bit.
Mm.
Everyone. It was very diverse, I should say.
Yeah.
And it was just also, incorporating all types of birth, all types of cultures, all types of people, all types of classes. It was very much like a civil birth rights course and an
Yeah.
initiation to like birth and like what birth should look like, what birth should feel like, what birth should sound like, what,
Mhm.
a birth could be. And it was exciting for me. And then my cousin got pregnant, and I was like, oh my gosh, I have all this knowledge. Let me support you. And then there was just something in me that also turned where I was like, oh, maybe I'm ready to be a mother. Oh,
Okay.
maybe I can do this for myself.
Right.
So it was really interesting. So I supported my cousin all through her pregnancy. She had a lot of different complications come up, but it was just so nice to kind of just be with her through it.
Mm.
She was such a rock star. By the end of it, and birthed her baby boy. It was wonderful,
Aw.
beautiful. Um, but then I was like, okay, I think I'm really ready. Like I was beyond ready to be a mother at that
Okay.
point, and I
Wow.
kept feeling this baby around me. I always thought I'd have a son first, but I
Mhm.
felt the presence of like this baby.
Yeah.
And so I told my husband, and he was on board, but it was funny. It took us 8 months to get pregnant.
Okay.
And that was because I wanted to give up gluten. I wanted to really nourish myself. At the time, my periods were very heavy and like not the healthiest. And I just wanted to
Mm.
like, take the vitamins, eat the right foods, like really nourish myself and get myself on like a regular cycle, get myself
Mm.
in the healthiest shape
Yeah.
possible and understand my cycle. I didn't even like, at that point, I was just kind of learning all of it at that
Yeah.
point. And I'm like, this is ridiculous that I'm learning this at like 28, 29, whenever it was when I first started trying to conceive. And
Mhm.
I just couldn't believe it. Kind of outraged me that I didn't know this stuff about my body already, even
Yeah.
having gone through doula training and being and going to births. Like that part wasn't necessarily emphasized. And
Okay.
I was like, what? It just kind of put a fire in me about my own health and knowing my own body and like female anatomy and all of it and how it actually works.
Mhm.
So that was really interesting. But yes, we got pregnant after 8 months of trying to conceive and also getting our bodies ready too.
Yeah.
And that was just like a turning point for me. I was so excited, but I knew I was having a girl at that point. I was like, we're having a girl.
Yeah.
And I started with an OBGYN because I had already been going to an OBGYN, but
Mhm.
I knew at that point, I was like, I'm just going to go to an OBGYN so I can switch to a midwife. It's just buying time to
Okay.
switch to a midwife. So this is my first birth. I had heard of free birth, but I was told in my doula training, because this was 2 years after I'd become a doula,
Yeah.
I was told that you can support births, but you should never go to a birth without a midwife. So it was
Mm.
kind of this like
Yeah.
humanized concept.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
first birth was midwife attended home birth. But yeah, before that, I was like, oh, okay, I'm just going to play by the rules, but I'm still a rebel because I'm getting a midwife. I thought that was like, that was
Mhm.
empowered birth.
Yeah.
It was still a good experience overall. I really didn't like being at the OBGYN because I would wait for a really long
Mm.
time.
Sorry,
Yeah.
can I just quickly stop you here and just ask a question about your time as a doula when you
Mhm.
were attending births? What kind of births were you going to? Was it all hospital or all home births or a mix of the two?
It
What
was a
was, yeah.
Yeah, a mix initially, and then I
Mm,
was like, "I don't like hospital." I was just kind of like, "I
mhm.
don't like it here. I feel like I'm going home with vicarious trauma. I feel like this
Yeah.
is they're just doing too much." Hospitals
Mhm.
in New York City are really busy and really
Okay.
crowded, and I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna just draw a line here, and I'm only gonna support birth center births and home births."
Okay.
And,
Yeah.
that's what I did, and I mean, I would volunteer doula because I had a corporate job, I was working full time. So I didn't go
Okay.
to too many births, but I had supported a couple of hospital births, and I was kind of like, "This is not my thing." Um,
Mhm.
and thankfully, my first birth that I ever supported was a home birth, and it
Mhm.
was incredible, and I'm telling you, like, I hear this all the time from people, they're like, "Well, if I wasn't renting, I would do a home birth." I was like, "My first birth was a woman who was renting a room, she didn't have her own bathroom, she didn't have her own kitchen, and it worked beautifully, like,
Wow.
beautifully." So, it was just a beautiful, beautiful birth. I liked the midwife as well, but there were some things where I was like, "Well, why are you over checking?" I just felt like, "Why are you
Mhm.
over checking her? She's fine, like, things are going really well." She's a very healthy woman, she had a beautiful, beautiful birth, a woman that was very in tune with her body and herself. So
Mhm.
I'm really thankful that that was my first experience because
Yeah.
that set the tone
Yeah.
for all the other births that I was going to. That's why I was like, "I can't do hospital." Like,
Mhm.
did you see my first experience? It was amazing. Like, you know
Totally.
Yeah, so it definitely set the bar
Yeah.
in that regard, and, pretty early on, I stopped doing hospital birth,
Okay.
unless it was, like, a family member or something like that, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Cool. Okay. Sorry, and continue on. I just
No,
wanted
no, you're
to hear that because it
yeah,
definitely does change kind of your feelings going into your own birth, and like you
oh,
said, having
1,000%.
that first experience being so beautiful and then going to other births where it's like, really? Is this what's
Really
going on?
feel exactly, I
Mhm.
really feel so divinely guided in my birth experiences, with
Mhm.
supporting women because, like, if that had not been my first experience, I probably would have carried on with the hospital birth for a long time,
Mhm.
just thinking that that's the standard, so I'm just
Yeah.
so thankful that that was I could
Mhm.
cut it off real quick.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
So I'm going to the doctor, the OBGYN, and I'm waiting for a really long time. And every single time they would give me a sonogram, like a short sonogram, they'd be like constantly
Oh,
doing that. I
okay.
was like, this doesn't feel right. Like, I don't know
Yeah.
why we have to do this every time. Our
Mhm.
appointments for 5 minutes, but I'd wait for like 15, 20 minutes, 30 minutes. And it just felt dry, to be
Mm.
honest.
Mhm.
So I had a lot of contacts. There were plenty of midwives in Brooklyn. So I had a lot of contacts. I wanted to just pick the right one. I just didn't know which one I wanted to go with. The midwife for my first birth, I didn't like that I don't know, there was something like I liked her and she was on my list, but there was like something about like the course of the birth where I was like, you're a little bit too managey. I feel like she was just managing it too much. So, she was on my list, but after I interviewed her, I was like, no, it's still not feeling right. And then
Mhm.
I eventually went with a midwife who all the at the time in New York City, all of the midwives were certified nurse midwives because it was illegal to be a certified midwife,
Okay. Yeah.
um, which is more of the, like, home birth midwives, and
Mhm.
so the certified nurse midwives were also home birth midwives in New York City at the time,
Yeah.
and, this particular midwife used to work in hospital, but she let that go, and she was very spiritual, and she was very hands off with birth, and so
Mhm.
I was really and she had 5 kids of her own, and she talked about how spiritual her births were, and, I asked questions about how long you'll let me go if I'm, pregnant past 42 weeks, whatever it is, and I liked everything that she had to say, and I felt a connection with her, so I went with her, and I transferred over to her at, like, 16 weeks, 20 weeks, something like that,
Mhm.
the needles were 2 hours long, and we
Yeah.
had, like, more conversation, and I felt better and a little bit more ready. But, I'll just, like, skip a couple because I had a wonderful pregnancy, it was awesome, like, I have nothing really to say about the pregnancy itself, but the birth happened, I wanna say, at 39 weeks and 6 days, like, so day before her or 2 days before her due date.
Right.
My water came out like a trickle,
Mhm.
just a trickle, and I was like, I was feeling this, like, energy of impatience around that time anyway.
Mhm.
I had, like, slowed myself down. I was still at my corporate job, like, I was not going in anymore, so I was getting really, like, restless and aimless, and,
Mhm.
um, I filled up at, like, at one point, I was like, "Whatever, we're gonna do everything over the weekend. We're gonna do so many things because I need to stop thinking about this." And, of course, Friday night. that's when my water decided to, like, trickle
Yeah.
out and break. Yeah, so it was like a slow leak, my water, when it broke, and, I it was fine. I was like, "Okay," but I didn't feel any, what they call contractions, whatever. I didn't feel any sensations.
Mhm.
And then it started feeling like period pain, and I was
Mm.
excited, even though as a doula, I know, like, "Hey, you're supposed to relax during this time, don't get too excited," but I
Mhm.
was. You just can't help it as a first-time mom, like, I just was excited.
Yeah.
So I couldn't really sleep, and the period cramps were coming in, like, occasionally every 30 minutes, but I didn't sleep, and then
Mhm.
saying that because, like, really, mothers, please sleep when you're
Yeah.
first feeling.
Yeah.
Didn't do that, and, so hours and hours went by, and, like, of course, like, it was intensifying, but it was still pretty irregular,
Yeah.
and I wanna say, like, around 1 o'clock, we decided to go on a walk, and it was, like, uncomfortable because I'm leaking at this point, I'm still leaking water. So we're going
Mhm.
on a walk, and then my doula comes by, 'cause I had a doula, I had a midwife, and then all of my family decided to join in on this birth, so I had a party birth. Do
Okay.
do not recommend that at all.
Mhm.
It was fun,
Mhm.
like, I love my family, we're all very close, just like my cousin who I told you I'm really connected to was there, my other little cousin was there, my
Mm.
aunt who is, around our age
Yeah.
was there, and she also did not believe in home birth, so that was
Okay.
interesting for her there, and my
Okay.
sister was there as well,
Yeah.
and my doula, and then eventually my midwife came. But my doula came first around, like, 2 o'clock or so, and she was like, "You were pretty early on," just, like, to give me some support, and, my, again, contractions were irregular, but it wasn't until about I think she came back around, like, 4 PM, 5 PM,
Mhm.
and at that point, like, you know, everybody was there, they were making me fruit, cucumber, I was drinking coconut water, it was great, it was
Mhm.
wonderful, but my sensations were, like, kind of all over the place, and
Mhm.
then at one point, I just got so nauseous. I know what
Mm.
that is now, but at the time, I was like, it
Yeah.
was not ideal, like, I was getting so nauseous, and it wasn't transition nauseous, it was just everything that
Mm.
every time I had a contraction sensation, I would be throwing up, and so
Okay.
that was making me weaker and weaker because I couldn't keep anything down. So I'm throwing up, throwing up, throwing up every time. And so I just stopped eating. And, as time was going on, I think at this point it was around, my midwife came around 11 p.m. So
Okay.
I would say from midnight, the day, like that, I guess the start of the day, midnight is when my water broke. And so I had those like irregular contractions, didn't really sleep,
Mhm.
walked around, had a full day. People were over, we're talking. I'm still contracting, but it's irregular. 4 p.m. it picks up a little bit more. I'm throwing up the whole time. And then bless you. And then at, 11 PM, she comes over because things are somewhat more progressed and escalated. So
Mhm.
we're there, and the minute she steps in the room, this is why I decided to have a free birth for my second daughter. The minute she steps in the room,
Mm.
I'm like, my whole energy is like, "Save me. Save
Mm.
this for
Yeah.
me." Do
Okay.
this for me, because like, who like, I don't wanna do this,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? And I'm just
Yeah.
like, and she was not for it, like, she was not the type of midwife to be like, "Yes, let me help you with different positions, let me do this, let me" no, she was very hands off, and she's kind of like, "I'm gonna be in that other room, and I'll see you
Okay.
in a bit." So that's what I really love and respect about her, but the only reason well, when I moved, but the only reason I decided to have a free birth was because of my own energy and my own stuff, like, I
Yeah.
was like, "I need you to save me," and I
Mm.
constantly was looking outside of myself during that birth, I was constantly just asking her to rescue me because that's what
Okay.
I believed midwife could do, like, and I didn't
Right.
realize I had those, like, those feelings until it was, I was in
Mm.
it, so
Mhm.
that was really
Wow.
so eventually, I was having contractions where I was asleep in between them, like, I was in a deep sleep between them because I was
Mhm.
just so exhausted by that point, and then
Mhm.
I'd get up and, like, have a contraction and feel sort of like a pushy contraction, but I wasn't so progressed that it would make sense for me to feel that, but it
Mm.
was still happening,
Mhm.
and then, this is June, so it's, like, hot in New York, we have the ACs going in the window, but it's, like,
Mhm.
still, kind of uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And so I moved to my bedroom because 'cause I'm going from the living room to the bedroom, and at the time, we already told our landlord, "Hey, so we're gonna give birth upstairs, just so you know."
Yeah.
She knew what was going on, and she was like, okay." She was so sweet. She was, like, the sweetest lady. She'd grown up in the house, she rented up the top floor, and she was just she was like family, so she allowed
Okay.
us to do that, which was really nice.
Oh.
Um, but yeah, so we're birthing, we're doing that, we're having a party birth. Um, and I go to my room and I'm like swaying from side to side. I had this vision of having my baby standing up.
Okay.
Um, and so I kept trying to stand up and do it, but I was just so tired by the end of it. And I ended up side lying, like in a side lying position, kind of like on my back, but kind of to the side.
Mm,
Um, I think I pushed way too early. I started
okay.
pushing, it took 5 hours for me to get this baby out, so I was pushing for 5 hours,
Mm,
and, each time I just felt like the contractions were going away, and
okay.
it wasn't until later that I think I learned this from Wapio, was just this feeling before, like this in between feeling where you don't have sensations and it's okay. And it's really meant for your body to just like, hey, you're gonna rest for a moment before it really,
Mm-hmm.
comes out, before it really happens. And I didn't allow myself to do that. I kept pushing through all of that when I should have just like listened to my
Mm-hmm.
body and rested. But there was just so much energy in the room. I had
Mm-hmm.
my family, I had my doula, I had my husband, I had the
Yeah.
midwife, everybody was there. And by the pushing stage, by the end of it, by the time they could kind of see her head coming through, which was again, that was probably another 2 hours before she came out, like her head was
Okay.
peeping out and going back in, peeping out and going back in.
Yeah.
But while like they thought, every time they thought she was coming out, there were phone cameras with the lights on. Like everybody had it on my vagina. And I was just like,
Yeah.
what? And at the time I didn't think about it, but I was like, in retrospect, I'm like, why did I even allow this? So
Yeah. Yeah.
it's great for the memories, but I was like, wow, there's like a bunch of lights, a bunch of cameras, like just a
Mm-hmm.
bunch of people all at my vagina right now. So
Yeah, yeah, that
it's a lot.
definitely, yeah, is a lot of energy for you to
So
have to
much.
like contend with when you're in your state of birthing.
Absolutely, and back then, I didn't know what I know about energy now, like, now I'm an
Mm,
astrologer, now I've been doing birth for a couple of years, now I
hmm
do free birth, which, incorporates so much more of the spiritual,
hmm
and birth is so energetic, and you're so energetically sensitive at that
Yeah.
point. I really didn't tap into that, I really didn't know that, even though I had been to births, even though I know how spiritual they are, it's
Yeah.
just taught kind of differently
Yeah.
from different people.
hmm
So, yeah, I didn't know what I didn't know until I
hmm
actually experienced it, which
Yeah.
or in my life, I typically have to experience it first.
Yeah.
So there was that, but she finally came out, and as she was emerging, she emerged from her eyes um, out. And
Mm,
so that is the only time that my midwife kind of like interjected, where she was like, she seems like she's a little stuck, like
mm,
possibly something is stuck. So she
mm.
went in and like really helped her out, kind of like pulled her out, and I could feel her going in, pulling my daughter out and my body ripping as she's doing it. So I remember
Oh,
that distinctly. I do. And
yeah.
I mean, she was doing what she thought was best, of course. And it had been 5 hours, but I just remember that memory very, very viscerally now. And
Mm.
she came out and I was a little person at the time. She was a big baby for who I was at the time. And she was 8 pounds, 2 ounces, not like 11 or anything like that, but I was like 8 pounds. What?
Yeah.
So she came out and she was this like big, hefty, like awesome baby. And
Mm.
the cord I remember was really short.
Okay.
And I was just so weak. Like honestly, I just felt weak everywhere. And I
Mm.
told you like probably the last 2 hours I didn't feel any contractions. So I was pushing up against nothing.
Mm.
So and I never got the fetal ejection response. I never felt that with my first birth at
Oh,
all.
right.
Never.
Okay.
So that was really interesting, and that was, like, work that I had to do for my second birth to believe that I could have the fetal ejection response.
Yeah.
So that was interesting. Anyway, so she came out, I was super happy, but I was super weak, and I
Mm.
also, like it's so funny, I did not have very much experience with, like, newborns, like, after I've been
Okay.
going to births, but I was like, "Wow, my baby looks like a little alien." Like, "That's
Yeah.
interesting." And I was like, "What are you?" And it was interesting because I didn't have, like, the quick rush of oxytocin. It
Okay.
was, like, 2 weeks of, like, a slow drip of this, like, incredible love for my baby, but I would just, like,
Mm.
slow drip, trickle throughout
Okay.
the, like, next 2 weeks, which was really interesting, and I've never heard anyone say that, but
Wow.
that's how it was for me,
Mhm.
with my first baby, for sure. But yeah, she came out, she was crying, she was very healthy. I did hand her off because I was about to drop her because I was so weak. So my husband held her for the longer bit of time. I got to hold her first, but then he
Hmm.
held her for a longer bit of time. And then, of course, she, poked me with lidocaine and like stitched me up. And I think she stitched me up way too tight, but I do remember
Okay.
that the tear was pretty significant.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, that's my first birth story.
Wow.
Oh,
Okay.
before that, I would say the contractions came back for my
Mm.
placenta. It was so
Okay.
strange. It was like the contractions that I wanted
Yeah.
came back to expel my placenta. So I
Okay.
don't know, that
And
was very strange. And
do
that was fine.
you do you know if she hit you with Pitocin to make that
She
happen?
didn't.
She
Yeah,
didn't.
no, she
Okay. It
didn't.
just
She didn't.
happened.
I know that one for a fact because I was definitely looking out and she knew how I felt about Pitocin.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
thankfully, no, she didn't do that.
Okay.
So yeah, it just was weird. It was like, oh, okay, great. Now let's
Now
function
we're
properly. I
ready.
think my baby was,
Okay.
uh, I asked my midwife because she's so laid back. I was like, hey,
Yeah.
what was going on with that? Why did it take so long for her to come out? Like, can we talk about it? Because I like information, I like details. And she's like,
Yeah.
no, it was just birth, And so for me and my own researcher
Mm.
hat that I always put on, I think she was asynclitic. I think she
Um,
was just like slightly crooked in my pelvis.
okay.
Um, I think that maybe she had some form of shoulder dystocia as she was coming out as well, the way
Yeah.
that she just kinda, like, pulled her out of me.
Mhm.
Maybe not, like, pure shoulder dystocia, but something was just, like, off with the way that she was coming out,
Yeah.
that she needed a little bit of help, and
Yeah.
the placenta, so I was like, "Oh, why does this hurt more than than me pushing her out?" So it came out, it, like, s my placenta slid out pretty easily.
Yeah.
And so that was like a no, healthy placenta, it was fine.
Mhm.
And then the lidocaine came, and remember that one distinctly 'cause she did poke me with that, and it did not
Mhm.
help at all, and I felt every
Oh.
stitch. So,
Oh,
yeah.
yikes. Oh, yikes.
Mhm, that was great. But
Wow.
I would say that the postpartum with her was, and I think it's because I didn't process my birth, right? I was like,
Okay.
"Well, I got my home birth, right? I should be happy." That's what I kept
Okay.
telling myself. But
Mm.
it was I felt like I had been hit by a bus for the next, like, 2 weeks, and I was
Mhm.
like, "Aren't I supposed to, like, heal better when I have a home birth? Aren't I supposed to feel better when I have a home birth?" And so I kept asking these questions.
Mhm.
And, my postpartum, there's so much I didn't know, even though I was
Yeah.
already a full spectrum doula, and I was like, "Yeah, you eat soups and you do this," but I didn't nourish myself in the way that I know how to nourish myself now, because I've
Right.
taken a deep dive into postpartum, like ancestral postpartum and all of that now, but
Mhm.
at the time, no, I had no idea. I was just kind of eating regularly. Yes, I was eating warm foods, but not like,
Mhm.
I was just eating whatever I could because I was
Yeah.
starving.
Yeah.
Um, and then it wasn't until, I know I'm going into postpartum a little bit, but that postpartum was hard because I had 2 other friends who we gave birth around, like, months apart from each other,
Okay.
and they were, like, healed. They felt good, they could their breastfeeding journey wasn't that difficult, they were losing weight, I was not losing any weight. It took 4 to 6 weeks for my breast to feel comfortable breastfeeding. Um,
Okay.
so it took a while, even though I was
Mhm.
successfully feeding her and she was getting bigger and things were great, it was just so painful for so long.
Mm. Okay.
And then, my stomach was not going down, it looked so different, it looked so funny, and when I walked, I felt this heaviness, and I'm like, "None of my friends are talking about this,
Mhm.
they're thriving, and I feel like I am just sinking into a hole, like, I feel like
Mm.
I'm not thriving, and I'm just getting, like, bigger." And,
Mhm.
my breast size went from a B cup to, like, a J, like, it was
Oh,
just
wow.
crazy, so much milk.
Yeah.
Um, and that was, like, again, blessing, I'm glad I had so much milk, but then
Mhm.
through time, I was like, "Is it gonna go down? Is it gonna go down?" It went down, but I'm probably, like, still a D cup, and
Okay.
most people go back, like, to their regular. So I was just
Mhm.
like, "Why is my postpartum like this versus other people?" And so
Right.
that took me down a, research rabbit hole as well, and,
Mhm.
never confirmed, but I'm pretty sure I was dealing with, like, some form of postpartum thyroiditis, and my thyroid was kind of off, and it used
Okay.
to happen both time for both of my births,
Yeah.
and it regulates after about a year and a half.
Mhm.
So that's also why I stopped breastfeeding after a year, about a year,
Okay.
because I just wanted my hormones to try and regulate a little bit more.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
so yeah, that's my whole story. It's long, it could
Yeah.
be another podcast on my postpartum and all of those discoveries, but I wanted to
Yeah.
do that just in case any other
Yeah.
mom had to go through that as well.
Yeah, and I'm grateful that you did bring that up because it is something that isn't talked about that often, you know? So it's really beautiful that you shed light on that and yeah, comparing to your other friends that did have these births around the same time and your postpartum feeling so different and yeah, it's because that's what happens sometimes, like,
Mhm.
all of our women's bodies are all different, and they're gonna take the birth differently, the pregnancy differently, the postpartum experience differently. Even if we prepare to the nines of how we want things to go and how we want it to be, our bodies will just react to the situation. So, yeah, I'm really glad that you brought that up because it's important to talk about because someone can then relate and be like, okay, it's like there's nothing wrong with me. This is just
Mhm.
what's happening. So now I have the language and a bit more understanding of what's going on in my body. Okay, so I wanted to ask you with this postpartum experience. So you said that you breastfed your babe for about a year, but during all of that time from birth until kind of figuring out and understanding what was going on with you. Were you getting a lot of family support? Because you'd mentioned that you're really close to your family. So was
Mhm.
that, yeah, was family really big in your postpartum journey as well?
So, at the time, I was living in Brooklyn and I had a lot of family around me, right? But no,
Okay.
no, not in the same way. It was like they were around, but the things that I needed, like
Mm,
help with,
mhm,
it wasn't the same because yes, our family is so tight knit, but then they've all come to America. We all have our jobs and our individual lives and like things just kind of split off and we
mm,
weren't set up in a way where, everyone's around. Like my cousin did live down the street at the
mm,
time. She also had a very young toddler and no
mhm.
help too. And
Right.
then, I had a good friend that lived another like a couple of blocks away, but she also was pregnant,
Okay.
and so it just was this and we all had to like kind of manage our own little silos because even though there's this like notion of things should be a village, it was just so hard, especially in New York. Like it's hustle mentality, hustle lifestyle. Things are so fast. You're constantly working. Things are
Mhm,
quick. That they were around, they would visit. I had company. I wasn't
mhm.
necessarily isolated, but I needed like something beyond that. And, I
Yeah.
wasn't necessarily getting it. And I wanted to do like the 40-day lion, the 40-day sit.
Mhm.
And I think because so many people were coming into town, like my mom came in town when I was 6 weeks postpartum. And before that, I did have my mother-in-law and father-in-law come into town when we were probably like 3 or 4 days postpartum.
Okay.
So pretty early on because they live closer. They live in Maine when we were in New York at the time. So they came down and it was really helpful because my mother-in-law was like helping us organize things. But
Mhm.
there was still this feeling like my husband automatically felt this like responsibility to become the host. He was like, let me
Okay.
host you in New York. Let me show you around. And I remember
Mhm.
getting upset, like getting in a fight one day when he like left me all afternoon to go tour New York City with his parents. And I was kind of like,
Yeah.
no. And he
Yeah.
left because he thought I had family coming that day, but they didn't come until much later. And like there were huge pockets of time where I was just
Oh.
alone. And I was like, that's not the purpose of like, by then I had some postpartum education. I did do postpartum work, but it wasn't as deep as I do now. And I was kind
Mhm.
of like, that's not what you do postpartum. You don't go gallivanting around New York. Like you're here to actually like help me. So
Totally.
yeah, there was that like tension and like just misunderstanding with on both sides, honestly, both sides of our family of like what it
Mhm.
is to really help a postpartum mama and like
Mhm.
what we actually need.
Yeah.
But that was also me in my early 30s, not necessarily having boundaries and like being able to speak out those boundaries, being
Mhm.
able to like have those parameters that people can work with. I didn't know
Mhm.
how to communicate that out either
Mhm.
because like they didn't have that and they're also not really into all the things you have to do postpartum. They're just kind of living their lives.
Mhm.
And I remember at, was it 4 weeks? My mom, my mom was here. So I was like at 6. I feel like I was on like 3 weeks postpartum, actually. My mom
Mm.
came at 3 weeks postpartum, and they were like, "Why are you like, let's go. Let's go to New Jersey. Let's go visit this family member. Let's go here. Let's go there." And I was like, "I still really don't feel up to it. I feel like I should still be at home."
Yeah.
And they're like, "You can't stay at home forever. Like, you have to keep moving. You have to go." Like, they're just trying
Hmm.
to get me out of my like
Yeah.
my swing of things, and that was really hard because I was going around and I was visiting family members and I was bringing my newborn with me, and I had this like feeling though that I really should just be at home and like getting well.
Yeah.
Um, and so I mentioned that there was this like every time I walked, like it felt like there was just something pulling
Mm.
or something heavy when I walked, and it wasn't until, I did my 6-week appointment, I went to the OB/GYN and the midwife.
Hmm.
No, I went first to the midwife, and she checked it out because I told her about that, and she was like,
Yeah.
"Well, it seems like it could be okay, and, like, that's pretty normal," and, she kind of just didn't think anything of it, and then
Hmm.
I also then went to the OB/GYN, and I was like and they were just basically like, "Well, that's what happens when you have kids, like,
Oh.
that's it." And I'm like, "What? This doesn't feel right or seem right." Kept researching, suspected that I had a prolapse of some sort, a pelvic floor prolapse of
Hmm.
some sort, and found my own pelvic floor, physical therapist,
Hmm.
and I 'cause I asked my doctor to give me a referral, but she was like, "Okay, I guess."
Mm.
And I found my own, and I went and they confirmed that I had like a bladder prolapse. It wasn't super severe, but it was definitely there.
Yeah.
And started doing pelvic floor PT at 3 months postpartum. That's how long it took, 3 months postpartum. Uh,
Wow.
So it was just a very slow recovery for me after that
Yeah.
birth. And
Yeah.
I know there was a lot of shock to my body, and I'm still working with that now. I'm still,
Hmm.
you know, processing that even now.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Wow. Yeah. And like to speak to all of that, especially how you're saying like the postpartum support that you knew you needed but wasn't able to get from your family, and it's like to no fault
Mhm.
of their own, as you're saying your
Yeah.
husband is like chaperoning his parents around New York City while you're at home just a week postpartum with this new baby. And it's like, dude, come on. Like, you
Yeah,
want to
yeah.
say, like, take care of your wife and your child and grandparents. Like, what are you doing? But they don't know. And
Oh,
that's
no.
the thing, because they're the grandparents' generation, that was it. The mom had to like get up and get back to work or get back to cleaning the
Mhm.
house within 3 or 4 days because that's just what it
Exactly.
was. Postpartum wasn't even a thing in that
Mm.
generation, let alone them knowing like, oh yeah, we're coming to see you. We'll hold the baby and then we're gonna go explore New York. Like that just seems very normal compared
Yep.
to what we know being in the birth world, what we know about women's physiology and how it's the best ways for women to heal, mom and babe to bond and all of these things. So it sounds so like, "Oh my gosh, that's insane. Why would they do that?" But then you have to put that compassion and be like, "Oh, but they don't know." Like
I don't know.
they think they're being helpful, they think they're being nice, they think they're being kind, but yeah, it's just that gap of information between one generation to the generation that's coming in. So
Mhm.
it's yeah, it's like it's sad and heartbreaking, but also like, okay, but I get it. I understand it.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
Um,
completely.
yeah, and I just wanted to speak to the prolapse situation as well, like 3 months for that to be diagnosed, and you had to do it yourself even after
Mhm.
speaking to 2 healthcare
Mhm.
professionals that just
Absolutely.
completely blew it off. Like, this happens so often with women and mothers, and the excuse, "Oh, well, that's just because you had a baby. That's just because
Mhm.
now you're a mother, you're a woman, your body parts are just gonna fall out of your body." And it's like, "No, that's not true. That's not true,
Yeah,
it's not
it's
supposed
not.
to happen, and you're a medical professional. You should be helping these women and mothers getting their bodies back to normal, like, over
Yes.
time, obviously, it's not gonna happen overnight, but, like, having that awareness to be like, "Oh, this isn't right after you just had a baby. Let's see what we can do to remedy this situation." Not you, as a newborn mother with a newborn baby, trying to figure out what is going on
Yeah.
in your own body. Like that's why you seek out the advice of these people so that they can guide you in this. It just like it baffles me, but I hear this so often and I'm like, "Oh gosh, it's
It's
crazy."
incredibly crazy, it's frustrating. My main PT person that I was seeing, she was from Spain, and she just said, this is a common this after birth, everyone goes through physical therapy in Spain. Like, why is it such a luxury here, or why is it so
Mm-hmm.
not heard of, not common here? It's
Mm-hmm.
just very strange. Of course, I think every woman could benefit, especially after a baby and even before a baby, from pelvic floor
Oh,
um,
absolutely.
physical therapy in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
Just I don't know, it's kind of nuts. I mean, going there, getting the pelvic floor PT, it was life-changing. It
Mm-hmm.
honestly was. I finally like, there was a point where I finally didn't feel the heaviness,
Mm-hmm.
and I felt like I was pouring back into my body because I felt like
Mm-hmm.
there was this, this loss that I wasn't necessarily re-nourishing in
Okay.
some
Yeah.
way,
Yeah.
within my body. That's how it felt, and the first appointment I had at the PT, they give you, like, a belly massage,
Okay.
and this is 3 months postpartum, mind you. They gave me a belly massage, and I could not stop crying. Like, it,
Oh.
like, activated something in me, and I was like, "Wow, I haven't even touched my belly, didn't like my belly, didn't look at my belly," and I was like, "Wow."
Mm.
Now when I do closing of the bone ceremonies, like, the first part of it, I make sure to do some sort of belly massage
Yeah.
because that part of your body just did so much, and it
Mm-hmm.
needs so much love, and it's like a
Mm-hmm.
reconnection to
Mm-hmm.
you.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was totally because of my experience that I now do that, but yeah.
Mm. Yeah, that's incredible. And it's true, like every woman should have the availability to go and have some sort of body work, especially hands-on, hands-in body work before pregnancy. And like it should be non-negotiable after pregnancy. Like every woman deserves it because there's such a drastic shift within their body that this is just how they heal. And ancestrally, that's what would happen. Like a woman would give birth, and then all the mothers, the grandmothers, all the women would come and would tend to her, touch her belly, touch her body, massage her. She'd get her internal work done. She'd have her steam. She'd have her delicious food. Like that
Yes.
was just commonplace. And it's really sad that it's just been so forgotten now
Mhm.
for women and mothers in our current society, which is supposed to be like superior to all of the
Yes.
others. It's
Yeah,
like,
very
are
much
we
so.
though?
I know. It I will say, just on a, like, lighter note, when my mom did come, she held me so
Mm,
so much through that time. Like, at the time, my oldest, she had what they called silent reflux. So, when I was breastfeeding her, sometimes it would just go back up and then come back down and go back up and come back down when she was drinking it, and
mm,
that would cause her to be really, like, irritated, and it would get worse at night. And so,
mm,
like, we were having some pretty hard sleepless nights, especially, right before bed, like, so it would happen around
yeah,
5 or so,
yeah,
and then she would sleep, and then she'd get up again and be uncomfortable, and then she would sleep, and then she'd get up again around 4 or 5 AM, and I
mm,
remember just kind of, like, 4 or 5 AM, just waiting for my mom to get up, just waiting, because I knew I
mhm,
could go to sleep because I could fully trust my mom to be with my baby and just, like, be able to
mhm,
rest. So that was so helpful, and obviously my mom cooked, like, she just, like, she did all
yeah,
the things.
yeah,
But what came in between that was when other family was visiting, and, like, they're like, "Oh, we must go," out of respect, you have to go see everyone that lives in the city. So my mom lives in
right,
Florida, she came to New York City, she's gotta go see my great aunt, she's gotta go see all these people just out of respect.
yeah,
So that
yeah,
was a lot, but other than
yeah,
that, she actually did an incredible job, and I
mm.
wouldn't have been able to get through those first couple of weeks without her, for
Mm,
sure.
yeah, wow. And that's so beautiful to hear that you had that. And like you're saying, you have your mom there and you're waiting for her to wake up because she's that person you know that you will have a
Mhm.
good deep sleep knowing that your baby is in
Yes.
these loving hands. And not to say, like, I know women do hire postpartum doulas for that, but I feel like it's just different because even though it's
It's
someone coming in
different.
your house that you trust, you still
Mhm.
don't have that bond with them. And it's like, yeah, I know they'll take care of my baby. Obviously, they're going to be kind and gentle and look after my child, but it's different when it's a mother to
Yeah.
grandchild relationship where it's just that, "Oh, okay, I can get
Yes.
that deep, deep sleep and, have like an 8 hour sleep in 2 hours if I really need
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
it."
I'm like, "You took great care of me," and I just,
Yeah.
family, there's something, I don't know, there's something about family, there's something about people who have seen you through all
Hmm.
your stages and that you fully, fully, fully trust.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what I had a really hard time with, even,
Mm.
looking for babysitters, looking for anyone that could help us.
Yeah.
I just kind of didn't for a really long time because I was like, "I can't trust anyone but my family, like, I've gotta
Hmm.
wait for my family."
Yeah.
So, yeah, I really wish the village truly existed
Mm.
in that regard because, yeah, it's
Hmm.
hard for me even now,
Yeah.
to ask for help with things, and thankfully, we do have some help, but it's just
Hmm.
different.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Well, thank you for speaking to that. Um, and then I want to ask you, what was the journey like then from baby number one to baby number two?
Oh my gosh, so that was really interesting. I had been sensing and feeling baby number 2 for a while. I always get the gender wrong because there's this little boy out there. I don't know if he's ever gonna come into this lifeline or lifetime, but he's out there, and he was coming in strong, but so was another little girl. The boy has been around the entire time, and I'm just
Mhm.
like, "What is this? When are you coming?"
Yeah.
So but, yeah, so I just felt the presence of the spirit being, and I don't know if I could, like, differentiate between the 2, and I thought 2 were coming. I thought that I was having twins, like, pretty early on. I was like, am I having twins?"
Wow.
So that's what I felt very, very strongly on. The first time around, I would say we got pregnant within, like, a month or 2, and then, we had this wedding to go to in London, and I remember having a very late bleed and a very strange bleed. So
Mm.
I'm thinking that that was like some sort of miscarriage. It was never confirmed. I never knew if I was pregnant or not, but I
Okay.
felt this is what I'm feeling, that
Mhm.
it was some sort of miscarriage because the bleed was very weird and it
Mm.
lasted for 11 days. So
Okay. Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
so I was just kind of like, I think I know what this is."
Yeah.
Um, and I was having the most incredible intuitive dreams at that time while it was happening,
Okay.
and so
Yeah.
I just kept having this urge to, clean up my diet, this urge to like, just these messages. I had this, like, little girl next to a turkey, and, like, she was telling me how to, like, eat leaner and, like, do this and do that and maybe give up meat for a little bit, and then, if I do go back is going back to meat, like, just making sure that it's, like, the best quality and, like, I don't know, it's just, like, these interesting dreams, um, that I feel like she was telling me at the time, and so we had a wonderful trip, that's what's happening, but I wasn't, I was mourning it, but it didn't overtake me or anything like that because it wasn't we almost like, tried by accident, if that makes sense. It was just like we're open to it. So I spent the
Yeah.
next like 3 months actively healing
Mhm.
and improving things, trying to re-nourish myself because at this point my daughter was, I want to say she was like 17, 18 months. And then we got pregnant when she was about, pregnant when she was about, not pregnant for the second time, at 21 months, when she was 21 months.
Okay.
And that was wonderful. It came at a really intense time. Things were really, really bad at work. My work kind of overtook a lot of my life. And it felt really energetically like it was life-sucking in a way because as soon as I had my first daughter, I just knew I wasn't supposed to be at my job. Like, it didn't fit. Everything was harder. Everything was just like it just was so hard to even, like, conjure up the energy to go out and be at this job where I had to leave my baby, and I just felt so misaligned. So, that was going on for 21 months, and in the cross of that, we decided to move to Maine. Finally, my husband's from here, and he's like, "Finally, you've agreed." Like, we bought a house here, and, I was at the time going back and forth constantly for work, so more time away from my baby, so we still had the apartment in New York, but there was so much transition going on. So we had moved to Maine, got pregnant. My job was like on fire. Lots of people left. I was covering 2 people on maternity leave. I had a new supervisor, a new boss, and they were not nice people. I'm sorry, they just were not. And it was very, 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 very stressful time. And when I got pregnant,
Yes.
it was kind of like I could see the light at the end of the tunnel because
Mhm.
it was like
Yeah.
we moved to Maine so that I could go to midwifery school. That was the plan at the time. I was
Okay.
gonna go to midwifery school up here and then leave my job.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah.
and so that happened. And as we were like coming up here, I remember starting to At the time, I had already discovered Yolande's podcast, Yolanda Clark's podcast. She had a podcast called Bauhaus Wife, and I love to hear her speak. I just do. She has a very articulate way of phrasing things.
Mm,
I wasn't quite ready at the time, right, with my first birth, but I remember distinctly knowing about her podcast then.
mhm,
And then I just started in between all of that, even before pregnancy, deep diving into her podcast. She
mhm.
wasn't super regular about it. And I would be like, chomping at the bit for the next episode.
Yeah.
And then I think through one of her episodes, because they did like a joint thing, that I discovered the Free Birth Society next. And I was like, oh, wow, this is really interesting. I had never heard birth stories the way that I heard birth stories because I'm a podcast junkie. I had all the birth podcasts.
Yep.
But this podcast, I was like, this is on another level. I can't even believe this.
Mhm.
Uh, all the stories that were coming through, I was like, I can't even believe this is like possible, even though I knew how beautiful home birth could get, I knew how, like,
Yeah.
whatever it is, but I was like, this is something different, and I very
Yeah.
much feel like my second daughter was, like, guiding me throughout the way
Mm.
to find these various things.
Mhm.
So I was just, I was deep diving on that podcast, I was listening to I was just absorbing every single story, and I
Yeah.
just knew that that's what I was gonna do if we ever got pregnant, then we get pregnant, and I see this light at the end of the tunnel, and midwifery school is no longer a thing that I could possibly do because at this point I'm radicalized. I'm like, there's no way.
Yeah.
There's no way. So I'm like, I don't know what I'm gonna do, but I'm still gonna eventually quit.
Yeah.
And the plan is to honestly quit it after maternity leave. I was like, you can give me my maternity leave. Like, we're gonna do this. So got pregnant, works on fire. And throughout the pregnancy, I just love pregnancy, first of all, like I love being able to just like take my baby everywhere and just like have her with me. And it helped me feel a little bit better about being in New York for, half the month and being in Maine the other half of the month, because by the time I was pretty significantly pregnant, my husband and my older daughter, had already fully moved here, so they were no longer going back and forth to New York, and then up our apartment as well, and so I was then staying with my sister in New Jersey and commuting into New York City when I had to go see clients or whatever it is, and, at that point, it's, like, hard. It was really hard to be away from my toddler and my husband for 2 weeks,
Can
um
I ask you how long is the distance from Maine to New York when you had to do that?
Oh, so it's about a 6-hour drive.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and so
Okay.
that's why I would be like, "I'm doing all that I need to do with my New York clients here, and we're not coming back." And then
Right.
then I had some, like, Boston clients, New England clients that I would deal with when I was back in Portland, so that's what I would
Okay.
do in between that.
Wow.
Yeah,
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 okay,
so it was
so
a lot.
that's
It
yeah,
was
that
a
is
lot.
a lot
It's a
to
trek.
contend
Yeah.
with, okay.
Yeah, so it was a trek every single time, and then I'd be, at my sister's house for a couple of weeks at a time, and I just felt great that I at least could take one baby with me, it's like, "I'm so glad that you're with me and I can call my daughter," and, they had such a close bond, like, my daughter and my oldest and my husband, they have such a close bond. They still do to this day, but now she's kind of back to being a mama's girl, thank God, because I was so worried. But it was, yeah, it was really, really hard for me, to be away from them, but also I think it was necessary to learn the lessons that I learned. I wouldn't do it again, but I know what I learned from that for sure. Um, so yeah, so during that time, I was just like deep diving in the Free Birth Society. And when I decided to have a home birth, it was like easy. Like my husband was like, yeah, of course, we had been watching these movies together. I know what you're into. You've been talking about it. Home birth, not a problem. When I then went to my husband and said, "We're gonna free birth the second child," he had, like, almost an anxiety attack, like, he just
Okay.
couldn't understand why I'd ever wanna do that, he couldn't understand, why I would wanna put myself at risk like that or whatever it is, and when you Google free birth,
Mhm.
it's a problem. Like,
Yeah.
like,
Oh gosh.
alarming news reports, it's alarming everything, it's like, "Oh my
Yeah.
god, crazy people who free birth," and you don't get the information that you actually need through
Mhm.
Google
Yeah.
for free birthing,
Mhm.
so it was hard for him because he's such a researcher, he's so like, "I've gotta find empirical evidence that this works out, that this is, like, a thing."
Right, yeah.
And for me, I'm like, "I don't need empirical evidence, and I also don't need
Yeah.
you to, like, take over everything. He felt so responsible for the birth, and I'm like,
Okay.
"I'm the one birthing the baby," and I wanted
Yeah.
harmony, of course, between the 2 of us, but at the same time, I'm kind of like, "This is my body, this is our baby, of course, but this is my body." So I was pretty like, we were at odds for a really long time during that pregnancy. There was definitely some feelings of just tension between us, and it was interesting because I felt very clingy that pregnancy. I wanted to be near him. I wanted his support. Um, I just wanted more. And I
Hmm.
felt that, and I was having lots of dreams of like abandonment. I was having lots of these like things come up because as my body was moving, it was like releasing memories or whatever it
Mm.
is. Because I
Hmm.
can't really track it to my actual life, but it was releasing something. And I wonder
Right.
what that means also for, I feel like Theodore and I have definitely, like, both my children, we've definitely had different interactions with each other in different lives.
Yeah.
Uh, with Theodore in particular, I'm just like, I know my second child, I know, I don't know, I know there's a particular connection there for sure. And
Mm-hmm.
I just kept getting these like dreams and these releases and these feelings. And it was just, I was on the go. Like, you birth how you live is what I tell my clients half the time, and, like,
Yeah.
I was on the go all the time. Like, I was like, "Hey, I'm in New York. I'm walking 4 miles here. I'm walking 5 miles here. I'm here back and forth, blah, 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 blah. We're going, going, going." And then I'm in Maine, and, like, I'm also while I'm in Maine, going to Boston, which is 2 hours away from, Portland, and I'm like,
Mm.
"Go, go, go." Everything's go, go, go. Then I'm getting up in the morning, and I'm doing my conference calls, and I'm here, and I'm there, and I'm there, and I'm there. And then there's, like, tension in the marriage, tension here. We're good unless we talk about free birth. Like, there's just so much going on
Right.
at once.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I live so differently from this time now, but, like, oh my
Yeah.
gosh, it was just
Uh,
on. So I was always going, and as a baby in my belly, like,
mm.
this child definitely required me to move. Like, I don't think she would have come if I still lived in New York City. And that's why I felt so pulled up here. She goes at her own pace. My oldest daughter was like, "Let's do it. We love the city. Kick, kick, kick." Like constantly, like she just loved the motion and the stimulation. Like she's still like that now. And my second daughter is just like, she would just stretch in the belly. She would just like move around and be slow. And I'm like, this is not the most resonant energy with how I'm going right now, but okay. So it was just an interesting time. And, eventually, as I was, like, slowing down, as I, like, needed to go to appointments, I think I went to in the beginning, I knew I was gonna have a free birth, so I'm an attorney by trade, so I was concerned about documentation, and so I
Okay.
went to an OBGYN just so that she could record that I'm pregnant because I was
Yeah.
really like, I'm free birthing, so I need to the record, I'm pregnant, there's no, like, discrepancy, there's no, like, question about when I
Hmm.
need to request the birth certificate, the different things that I have to do. So I
Yeah.
went probably at 11 weeks, and I told her, "Hey, I'm gonna find a midwife.
Hmm.
So know that I'm not gonna fully be your like, your patient this whole time."
Yeah.
And so I went, and, she recommended an ultrasound, and that was one place where I compromised with my husband because and I've had fibroids in the past, and
Okay.
one thing that they saw in the first pregnancy is I have 2 really small ones, and thankfully, that pregnancy, they didn't grow or anything like that.
Hmm.
And then this pregnancy, he was like, "Well, if you're gonna free birth, we have to, like, see what's going on with your fibroids. Let's just, like, make sure everything's cool." And everything was cool. I have 2 small ones. They didn't grow through the pregnancy, but that's
Okay.
also why, we did an ultrasound, and it
Right.
was so
Yeah.
interesting because I'm at the hospital in Maine, and we got the ultrasound, which again, I don't believe in ultrasound, but I got 2 with this pregnancy.
Hmm.
Um, and, she's like, "Oh, you're probably around 11 weeks." I was like, "No, I'm 12 weeks and blah, blah, blah." She's
Yeah.
like, "Well, you don't really know." I was like, "No, I do because I know how to track my cycle and I know when we conceived. I know all of this stuff." And she's like,
Yeah.
"No, like, how do you calculate it?" She's like, "Well, we don't really know." Like, she doesn't know what she was talking about, and I'm like, "You're trying
Yeah.
to tell me how far along I am, and I'm telling you, because I know my body and I know how to track things, that
Yeah.
your ultrasound is not right." Like, you can't just
Hmm.
rely on a computer telling you this is about this time, and it was just crazy. It was just crazy.
Hmm.
So, I was like, "Yes, this is exactly why I'm not going to the
Why I'm
hospital."
not,
So, like,
yeah, putting
I'm
myself in the
done.
system. Oh,
Yes,
wow.
exactly. So there was that, and then eventually, our compromise was that I would see a midwife for my prenatal, so I didn't have a wild pregnancy.
Okay.
So and then I would free birth, and she could come afterward if she wanted to. That was, like, the agreement, and
Mm,
I looked everywhere for a Black midwife, honestly, because that's what I had in Brooklyn, and I was like, "Why should I have to change anything?"
mm,
And I went with a Black midwife in Maine, and she was wonderful, but I could feel what I felt with the first midwife that I experienced birth with, like, not my birth, but the first birth that I ever g went to, where
mhm.
there was this, it's like they're saying they trust birth, they love birth, they trust women, but this feeling of like, "But I'm gonna manage everything just so nothing goes wrong,"
Yeah,
like that feeling, and that was
yeah.
there, and I was like, "I love you as a human, but I don't think I can have you at my birth."
Mhm.
And I felt like, just like when we are starting, I need to have some sort of like chord or resonance with anyone that I talk
Mhm.
to. And so I was trying to understand who she was and get to know her as well. But she had this like professional wall up, which is
Mm.
fine. People do that, but not if you're coming to my birth. Like, not if
Yeah,
you're gonna, no, no. Like, we
yeah,
need to rip that apart. We need to
yeah.
shed that wall because I need to know who you are and where your heart is. And
Mhm.
I felt
Yeah,
like there was just energetically a wall. Um, Not that she was purposely doing it, I just that's the way that I felt.
mhm.
So she was fantastic for prenatals. It was nice to talk to someone and, I asked for the fetus scope. We did not do any Doppler, we did not do any of that, so that was nice.
Yeah,
And she was great to talk to as well, and I said, "Hey, I can sign a contract if you feel better about not coming to my birth. So just so you know, like, liability wise, we will not be suing you. We will not be like taking action on our end no matter what happens because I'm
yeah,
taking full responsibility for my own birth."
yeah.
And she was like, "Okay." And so we wrote up a contract. She had her lawyer check it.
Oh,
It was a whole
wow.
thing. Yeah, it was a whole thing. I was like, "Yep, do your thing, but you're not coming to my birth."
And
So
what was there a specific reason why you told her that you didn't want her to come to the birth without just, like not calling her? Um, was it important to you to like say it to her that we're just using you for this part and that part, but not the birth part?
yeah. Yeah, I mean, I guess I could have just not said anything, right?
Mm,
I'm like I'm very direct. I'm very
okay.
like, I'm not
Yeah.
gonna like skirt around things.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to make it abundantly clear,
Yeah.
like, you are not coming.
Perfect. Yeah,
Like, you
perfect.
are for
Okay.
emergencies only, and yeah,
Mhm.
no, you're not coming. I knew it from the beginning, and like hiring her was a definite compromise on my end, right, with my
Yeah.
husband. I
Yeah.
take full responsibility for that too,
Yeah.
because I think if you make certain decisions that, honey, I'm on the phone, sweetie.
Mhm.
If you make certain decisions that there's a part of you that should take accountability, right?
Yeah.
Because I compromised, but I
Mhm.
think the only reason I compromised is maybe I wasn't fully ready either, right?
Mm,
So
mhm.
I definitely take responsibility for that. I think if we have a third child out there, which I feel a third child around, but I don't know if we'll do it.
Mhm.
I'm almost 40 and I don't know if I want to change diapers into my 40s.
Yeah.
Um, But, I am fully confident in a wild pregnancy. I'm fully confident in a free
Mhm.
birth. I know the way that I'll do it the 3rd time for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just kinda wanted to tell her 'cause, like, you're not coming to my birth. Like, I don't
Yeah.
want you to feel any type of way or have anything in your head about whatever, like, you're just
Yeah.
not coming. Like, so I
Yeah,
just
no,
like to
that's
be
fair.
very direct to people. But
Yeah.
you're right, there are other options. You do not have to say anything, especially if you're not comfortable doing that. But listen, I'm a New Yorker, like, we just gonna tell you. I'm just gonna tell you
Mhm.
how it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's that. But
Cool.
she was really, really wonderful about it, I will say. She was, and again, great person. I just didn't want a midwife at my birth.
Mhm.
And so day comes for birthing. I didn't know it would come so soon
Mhm.
because I was not ready. I mean, I was still working. I was at this point, I was working from home. At this point, I stopped traveling at around 37 weeks. I think I
Okay.
did a last stint to New York. And then I was working from home, and I had a lot of like the handover stuff to do when you go into maternity leave, which I hadn't completed yet. So I was like, I've got time.
Mhm.
And the second baby is like, could be long. I don't know why I thought it could
Mhm.
be longer. But I noticed I was having, around 37, 38 weeks, I was having like Braxton Hicks contractions at night after nightfall, which is 4 p.m. here in November. Like, it's just
Mhm.
always like really early. So like even after like 4 p.m., 4:30 p.m., I'm like getting these like tightenings. I'm like, what is that? And I'm like, okay, Braxton, it must be Braxton Hicks, but it would happen like every day after nightfall. And I'm like, that's weird.
Mm.
And then at 38 weeks, I think I had Theodora at 38 weeks and 6 days.
Oh,
But
okay.
yeah, so that was massively early for me because again, like it was like I thought it would be 40 weeks. I thought it would be a little bit longer. But I did have her at 38 weeks and 6 days. And so same thing happened. My water, I tried so hard this time around because I was like, I don't want my water to break early because the sensations are different before your water breaks. It's a little bit I don't want to say it's like better, it's easier, but it is in a way. Like
Mm,
there's more cushion and protection, right? As you're like dealing with the sensation. So I really wanted to hold on to my waters. I really wanted to have a baby on call. Like I really wanted to
mm,
have her in her sack still and like it's just so undisturbed. I had all these like visions.
mm,
So that's what I really wanted. And I guess I didn't, my bags, there are ways to strengthen your water bags through vitamin C, through zinc, through various things. And maybe I just didn't do enough, or just this is the pattern of my body. I think through processing that birth, that I still didn't process my first birth. So it was showing me a pattern
right,
of the same thing, the things that I didn't want so that I could finally deal with it. So
right.
I will say during this birth, because I was like on the go during this pregnancy, I was on the go all the time. Did I sit and do the work that I tell people to do now? No. I
Mm-hmm.
I did not process anything. I did not like recall anything. I thought I did to an extent, but not
Mm,
the deep work that I do now.
yeah.
With mothers and like really going in and having that birth vision and thinking about your past birth and clearing those fears and really deep diving.
Mm,
So that did not happen, and I was getting the start of a birth that was very similar to my first. So I had my water break, it leaked, the leaking birth, and eventually my husband called the midwife at some point, probably like 6 hours into my water breaking because I really had no contractions whatsoever. I was just like, "Oops, okay, normal day." Like, "Okay."
mm-hmm.
And I told her that I don't know, I think I told her a different time of when my water broke. She's anxious, and I'm like, "I know I'm fine. I know I have no infection. I know, like, all the things," right?
Yeah.
So, it was pretty, standard, like, it was not a problem, that my water broke. So it's just kind of like moving about the day. My in-laws came to pick up my oldest child just so we could like move through the day and try to really birth.
Mm.
So there was definitely that. And my daughter keeps coming in here and I'm like,
That's
what?
okay.
um, and yeah, so I was finally getting into it. I was drinking soups, which was really nice.
Mm,
And then I felt myself getting nauseous again. And then I felt myself um throwing up again, and I was like, "Oh,
okay.
no, this is the same thing again, like, this is, like, just like my oldest birth, it's just like her birth, like, what am I gonna do?" And because it was just me and my husband, and I was kind of, like, off to myself somewhere, I could listen to what my body wanted to tell me. I could,
Mm-hmm.
like, hear myself a little bit more, and there was this, like, feeling of, like, "Oh, the energy. I don't know how to deal with the energy coming through me." And
Mm,
so it's actually just kind of overwhelming, and my response is for it to come up when I should, like, help it come down.
right.
And so I was like, "I'll try that." Like, this is all in my head happening. It's like,
Yeah.
"Oh, I'll try that." And so I do, and so the next contraction, I focus my energy down, like, I went inward and I focused my energy down, and it worked. It just
Wow.
worked. I did not throw up again that entire
Wow.
birthing time. I did not. I
Oh,
was
I
like,
love that.
"What? This is amazing." And
Mm-hmm.
I want the type of birth where you, like, go on nirvana and you're in the cosmos and you're, like, out of your body and the ancestors come and get you, and I felt divine intervention and help, but I was so in my body, like, both my births, I've been, like, in my body, more grounded than I normally am, maybe because in life, I am, like, out in the cosmos and, like, in forever, like, "Stay in your body, like, stay here." So it was really, really interesting to just be so viscerally in my body. So I'm like feeling all the different changes and tugs. And then I had this like feeling like I wanted to go upstairs to the bathroom. So I went upstairs to the bathroom just to kind of be on the floor, be on the bathroom, be in the
Yeah.
bathroom and be by myself.
Mm-hmm.
And my husband's like around. He's like, we cleared out the bottom, like downstairs of our house. We actually got a birth pool this time. and cleared like our furniture just so there's like two open rooms for me to walk around and put shades like curtains all over just so it could stay dark, which was
Mhm.
really nice.
Mhm.
So I go up to the bathroom and it really escalates at this point. Like this, I would say it's like it was about 11 p.m. When I did that whole like redirecting my energy from upward to downward, like moving the energy down so that it actually moves the birth forward. So that was happening. And then I don't remember time at that point. Somewhere along the lines, I decided to go up to the bathroom and birth up there alone. And through that time, it was getting really hard. It was getting, things were coming really rapidly at least, or the contractions were getting really, really intense.
Mhm.
Um, and now I know how to kind of like integrate that energy, but at the time it was a lot. Like I felt like my hips were widening so much and like they were
Mhm.
breaking and it felt just so intense. Why do people do this? Why did I want to do this? Like, what's happening? Like, this is just, how could I think this was a thing that I wanted to do? Well, the hospital's not far. The hospital's like both hospitals in Portland are about 8 minutes from our house. So we're kind of like, well, I was like, but I wouldn't want to be in the hospital. I'm just all these things are going through my head as I'm going
Yeah.
through this. And finally, I just let it all go and really sink into the feeling of my hips widening and sink into the feeling of all of this going through my body.
Mm.
Just so profound. And it got to a point where I was like, this is feeling like a lot. I'm gonna try to go downstairs and see what, my husband's doing, see what Rob's doing, see what he can do. Maybe I'll go into the tub.
Mhm.
I go downstairs and I'm like, can you fill the tub? And he's like, okay, are you sure? It might be a little bit too early. I was like, no, fill the tub. He's like, okay. So he starts filling the tub. And as he was starting to fill it, I'm like, okay, I think baby's coming. At this point, I still thought I was having a boy.
Okay.
So we decided to be surprised on our second one. Our first one, we found out pretty early through like a blood test.
Okay.
Um, just knew the whole time, and I already knew it before that. We're going to be surprised. And we had a girl name. We really didn't have a boy name. I think we've always had a boy name, but it was not like something we decided on. Um, but yeah, so so I'm going through and I'm like, okay, I think she's coming. He's like, are you sure? It seems a little bit early because he's so used to me like pushing 5 hours and then taking. And he's like questioning her. She's coming, and she's coming. She came, I was on all fours because I did have this feeling and this fear of like baby getting stuck. I wanted to make sure my hips were wide enough and like lots of like room to just come out, even though it's a different birth, different baby, different
Mm.
body. My hips had already widened once. So it was just very different. And she just honestly, I breathed her out. He was like, push. And I was like, I'm not going to. I really don't need to.
Yeah.
I just breathed her out. And maybe by the end, did a little help. Like I helped her a little bit out and she just came through. But because I was on all fours, like I wasn't catching her and my husband caught her and it was just the two of us. And it was just
Um,
magic. I really,
um,
and so I would say from 11 p.m. to 2:20 a.m. when she was born, that was my labor, really.
wow.
The other part of it was like, I'm at slow leak of my waters, but not really much happening. So that was it. And it was the perfect amount of time. Like I felt really good about that. Really good. I didn't feel like it was too fast. I didn't feel like it was too slow. It was awesome. But, for my trajectory from like a 21-hour labor to, 4 hours or whatever, that was fast. And it was very much in line with like birthing how I lived. Like
Yeah.
I was on the fast lane during that.
Yeah.
So it felt really fast. So she just like slipped out of me and Rob like passes her over to me and he's like, it's a girl. And I was like, it's a girl. Like, she's not even crying. She's just looking at the world. This is how she is right now.
Mm.
She looks and observes. And so she's just like looking around, looking at me, looking at her, just looking at everything. And it's just like I can always harken back to that really peaceful moment because she's such a little wonder. She's just
Mm.
around. and I just held her, and I felt like on top of the world. I felt so, like, energized that I,
Mhm.
like, picked her up, and I was like, "Let's go upstairs and lay on the bed." Like, we just pick her up, and I go from the living room all the way up the stairs to my bedroom, and, there's, like, liquid, trail of blood, whatever, like, I was like, "I don't care." Like, this is just awesome. And I had so much energy, and I just kind of brought her up like this, like, wave of just, like, mama energy just came over me, and I, like, felt on top of the world, and then I, like, laid on the bed, and it was just amazing. And
Mhm.
at the time, like, he had called the midwife, I wanna say, right after, like, it was as I was about to push, he called her, but she lived in another city. She lived probably around 30 minutes away from me, and we had a massive snowstorm. So,
Okay.
it took her a long time to get here, like, a long time. So, I not only got my free birth, but then I also got my golden hour. So, I had an
Yeah.
hour that where I was just like it was just me and baby. We were just hanging out. It was wonderful and peaceful and amazing, and I wanna get back to that time, like, I would never do it any other way. It was awesome.
Mm.
So, by the time she got there, she probably got there, well, yeah, an hour after birth. An hour after I birthed her, she got there. My midwife got there, and, I hadn't released my placenta yet.
Okay.
I don't know why. I think I was just, like, holding on to it, honestly. It was just right there. I just hadn't, like, birthed it, and I think maybe it was from the fact that it hurt more in my first birth to birth the placenta, but yeah, it was just kinda sitting there, and she got there, she was like, "Do you want me to help you with it?" 'Cause it's right there, it's just, like, right there.
Mhm.
She's, like, slowly tugged it through, but it just, like she, like, did a small motion, like a small tugging, and then
Mhm.
the rest of it just, like, came through.
Mhm.
So it was really easy, but my placenta with my second daughter was a lot smaller, and I don't know why, but it was just a lot smaller, and I don't know if that had anything to do with why she was just like, "I'm out of here, early," or whatever. It was much smaller, and she was a much smaller baby. She was 6 pounds, 12 ounces. Granted, she was a lot earlier, but I was like, "Wow, that's you're a tiny one." Like,
Yeah.
so she looked so different from her sister. She looked, like, Astrid, my oldest, she was chunky everywhere, just like a little chunk mom immediately. And Theodora was just long and lanky like her dad and just very
Okay.
different. Like, she was like cute baby, but very different. I was like, "Oh my goodness." And she came out very like my husband he's white. So our babies obviously have a combination of our colors. And they come out a slightly lighter, but Theodora came out ghost white. Like she was very, very pale, like
Okay.
paler than normal people pale. So I was like, "Oh, that's interesting." So she was doing all the tests. It was interesting. My midwife was doing weighed her, looking at me, taking her heartbeat, but there was this weird energy of like, "Oh, that doesn't sound right." Like, "You might have to go to main med," which was the hospital. "You might have to go to main med." "Oh, no, this doesn't sound right." And she's
Mhm.
like, "Oh, actually, this is because of this and this." Like, "Whoops." I'm like, "Why would you even say
Right.
that?" And
Right.
then there
Yeah.
was another instance of something she was checking. She was like, "Hmm, that's not right. You might have to go to main med." And I was like, "Can you stop speaking that over me? Like, stop."
Yeah.
Everything was fine. She was healthy. Things were beautiful. I did appreciate her being there 'cause she helped clean up. She made me some eggs. Like, it was great.
Mhm.
But really, like, she didn't do much outside of her own test that she felt she needed. Because I was like, "I don't need it."
Mhm.
And, like, recording the birth certificate. So I am really thankful I didn't have to do the birth certificate process, and she could do that.
Mhm.
Um, the next day, my daughter was extremely yellow. Like, she went from ghost white to extremely yellow, which again I have mixed babies, like, I
Mhm.
can't really tell, but this time around, I was like, "Oh, she's super yellow," like, it's beyond, like, that,
Mhm.
so I knew there was some sort of jaundice going on, and with my first daughter, she had a bit of jaundice too, but it was June, at the time, and lots of sunlight, it was hot, like, we just opened up the shades, and just the
Yeah.
sunlight helped, it was not really that big of a deal, and she was a bigger baby.
Mhm.
Theodora is a smaller baby, super yellow. I asked to get her tested for jaundice, to get her, like, levels tested.
Mhm.
Um, I really do regret that at this point. I really, really do
Okay.
regret asking that. I thought I was doing the right thing,
Mhm.
but she was Yeah, so she was there, she was super yellow, she got her levels tested, the midwife tested her, submitted it to the lab, and then she called me a couple of hours later and was like, "Actually, her levels are so high that she's at risk." For her life is at risk essentially.
Right.
And so she gave the records into Maine Med, and they were the only ones with a bill like they had the bilirubin lights for the baby. And
Hmm.
there's only one Billy blanket in the entire state of Maine for midwives. So I
Seriously?
used yes, it was
Oh
being
my
I had
gosh.
to go to Maine Med. I was like, "Oh my god." Like, I kept looking up, like, Billy blankets after this, and there's thousands of dollars,
Wow.
but yeah, so there's only one in the entire state of Maine outside of the hospital, right? So, Maine Med had their NICU, and they were like, "You should come in, bring your baby in, whatever," and I was like I went from being told not to, like, leave upstairs for 10 days to now you have to bring your baby to the hospital, you know?
Yeah.
That was shocking and really unfortunate because, yeah, it was just scary too, the way that I was being told that my baby's life's at risk because of the amount of bilirubin in her blood or whatever it is. So we had to then move and, like, mind you, snowstorm, this is December in Maine. Huge snowstorm. Our car is under snow. Like, this is
Mm.
covered in snow. Our driveway covered in snow. It was like a dumping. There was at least 3 feet of snow outside.
Wow.
So my husband had to, like, then get when we're still exhausted, he had to get up, clear off the car, get everything going. We had to then our oldest had come home by that point. We had then had to arrange for her to go back with her grandparents, so that we could go to the hospital, and everything was just taking time. I wasn't feeling really up to going into the cold. Um,
Hmm.
we were slower, so I should be there in an hour, but it took us 2 hours ultimately to go, and she kept calling, like, in intervals, and she's like, "I don't wanna rush you, but they're, like, waiting for you. They really want you to go there," and it wasn't until, when we got back from the hospital that she was like, "They were ready to call the police on you." That's when I kept calling you, and I was like,
Yeah,
"Ah."
but that's crazy because you're trying to do all of this with a newborn after
Yeah,
just having birth in 3 feet of snow.
yeah,
Like, you're not going to be moving fast in three
yeah,
feet of snow. It's not like this was the middle of summertime and all the roads were
no,
clear and
no.
everything was fine.
Yeah, they were just there's still a culture of, like, hospital against midwives, and even though my midwife had a good relationship with the hospital, they're still freaked out that someone had a home birth.
Oh,
They didn't even know I
totally.
had a free birth. They're, like, still freaked out at the concept of home birth.
Totally.
Put this, like, air of irresponsibility on the parent, right? So they're like, "Oh, why is this parent taking 2 hours to get here? We're so, like, ready to call the
Yeah.
police." And when we walked in there, because I didn't know this at the time, it wasn't until our stay was over, but when we walked in there, they had an attitude. They had, like, a really the way that they received us
Mm,
was really just cold and, like, dismissive. Like, I
yeah.
really didn't appreciate it. So I'm limping in there because I just gave birth. Even though I felt great, it was still like, I didn't
Mm.
get stitches, I didn't tear, I should mention that, I didn't tear.
Okay.
I had little hairline,
Yeah.
and I was like, "Good, close my legs,
Hmm.
it'll heal," and it
Yeah.
absolutely did. So that was great, but it was still like, my body's like, when you're it makes me think of, when you're on a treadmill and you're on, like, 12 inclination on the treadmill and it's slowly, like, declining down, like, I felt like my body
Mm,
was doing that, where it's, like,
okay.
trying to, like, reassess itself, it's trying to move things around, and now I'm moving, and it's just too much. So
Hmm.
I was essentially limping into the hospital room, and they were so cold and they were so nasty. But we had Theodora under the bilirubin, and we decided to, like, stay right next to her. Like, I'm not going anywhere. Like, they were like, "You guys can go home now." I was like, "We're not going anywhere. None of
No,
your
thank you.
like, we're not going anywhere." So the first night they let us sleep in, like, a room for parents, I guess. And then the second night they didn't have it anymore, and it was, like, gonna cost so much money for us to do that, and they allowed us to sleep on the, like, couch thing in the room with her. So I'm
Mm,
like, "There's no way I'm leaving her, I'm not going anywhere." So we were sleeping in this, like, very uncomfortable couch thing. It didn't really make a bed, but it was like sort of you could make it a bed. So that's where we ended up. And every day I was getting no information. First day we were there, they would come in, not speak to us, not acknowledge us, and prick my baby's foot for blood. Like they would just not say a
seriously.
word. And, that was, like, every, like, 4 hours they would do that, and she would cry, and she's in this, like, container with bilirubin lights, and I'm away from her, and it was just to this day, it's very traumatizing to actually witness and be with, and it wasn't until the next day that both of us were like, "We no, you need to come in, you need to acknowledge us, and you need to tell us what you're doing."
Yeah.
And they, like, changed the shift of the people that do that because it was really at night that they would do that, and I'm like, "What are you doing? Can you I'm in the room, like, and you're touching
Mhm.
my baby."
Yeah.
Mm. So that was really frustrated, and, every day they would do the rounds, and I would just not get information on how long she needed to be there. Like, I had no
Right.
idea how long we were gonna stay, and it ended up being, 3.5 days. I thought it was a 24-hour thing. I'm going in here thinking it's a 24-hour thing. We were there for 3.5 days. At
Wow.
that point, 2 days in, my in-laws were like, your daughter really misses you." So, like, my husband had to come home, pick up my daughter, stay with her, and come, like, to the NICU occasionally. Like, he couldn't
Mm.
stay. So I stayed the whole time. Still
Mhm.
mad at that this day 'cause I'm like, "You coulda kept her for another 2 days." But truly, like, that's it. I'm happy one of us got to sleep in a bed at some point.
Mhm.
But that was still really a lot for him because, again, we're still exhausted at this point. We
Yeah.
really haven't slept. And she would cry in that little thing,
Oh.
and I couldn't do much about I would be, like, constantly talking to the nurses, "Can I just hold her? Can I just, like, can we, help with this?" And I
Mhm.
started pumping out the colostrum pretty immediately. She had, like, a high palate, so she had a really hard time, like, clenching onto my breast.
Right.
So we were feeding her with a syringe initially just to give her enough calories because at this point, I would have slowly done it at home and,
Yeah.
like, figured it out and just made sure she got enough liquid. But at the hospital, they're like weighing her every 5 seconds and, like, weighing her against the bilirubin and blah, blah, blah. Like, so there's, like, a lot of
Mhm.
pressure to get all of this into her. So we were doing syringe. I was doing the nipple shield, as well. That was helpful. I think my nipples are, like, funny shaped. So both my kids just kinda had to adjust to it. Um, but her high palate, was definitely, it's probably because she was a little bit early, like, hard for her to, like, really, suck down and get the milk.
Yeah.
So, we were doing that, and then my milk came in, obviously, when I was in the hospital, and I was just, like, on this, like, hard couch in pain, and
Oh.
there was a lactation consultant that really helped, thankfully. So that was good. And then, I had a mental breakdown at some point, because they kept coming in, they kept pricking my baby. No one was giving me any information. And finally, I was like, I'm taking her home right now. Like, you are not giving me any information. And I'm just like crying. And I'm like, this is crazy. Like, I need to
Mhm.
go home with my baby. Where's the information? And finally, they were like, okay, let's give it one more night and then you can go home. And so we did that. And they, like the doctor actually stayed with me, talked to me, explained to me what was going on. But before that, he was going on his rounds and talking about the situation, not really talking to me and not really acknowledging that, hey, I'm sitting here and I have no information about, like, how long this is going to take, what's going on, what's
Mm.
happening.
That's awful.
So those were the first days of her life. I think her birth was really beautiful and she came into this world very harmoniously, but there is
Yeah.
definitely this imprint of,
Mhm.
um, being away from me and
Yeah.
trauma.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, like, that's a limbic imprint that I can't take back,
Right.
and it is there, and I see it. It's interesting because I see it come up with various things. She's
Okay.
very, like, I don't know, there was, like, one time where we got out of the car and my oldest got out 'cause she can do it on her own, and I was, like, getting out, I was closing the door to get around the car to get her, and she's like, "Don't leave me." She has this thing about, like, being left, and I see
Oh,
it come up
yeah.
all the time, and,
Mm.
during COVID, if she had to get tested, that would be very traumatic for her, and she would just kind of, like,
Mm.
fall asleep, which was interesting. So I noticed her
Mm.
trauma response is either to yell really loudly or to fall asleep, and so I'm really protective over her,
Mhm.
and, like, the different things that are required of us mainstream, like, in America,
Yeah.
stopped. I tested her once, I was like, "No, no, nope, no more. We're not doing this anymore, they're babies, like, forget
Wow.
this. This is absolute bull."
Wow.
So, I don't know. Yeah, and now what I know about baby jaundice versus adult jaundice, and the fact that we treat them the same in this country is
Mhm.
really ridiculous. I know her levels were high, but I think I would actually still try to feed it out of her, give her sunlight, and do the things that you do with baby jaundice and not necessarily, I probably would have waited it out a little bit longer, honestly, just to
Mm.
see how she's doing and how it's like flowing through her body because it's not as harmful as they purport it to be because adult jaundice acts very differently in the body than baby jaundice. So,
Right. And did
yeah.
they ever actually give you the numbers to say how high she was? And
I think they did at one point, maybe in passing, they said that, according to their list, that she's at, like, one of the top numbers. She was at, like, one of the top numbers where it's,
okay.
like, risk for death, like, very very scary. The way that they worded it was just very scary, but I never got you're right, I never, like, officially had a document of numbers. I probably could go back and ask to get those numbers, but I
Hmm.
never really like, they just made it seem very extreme, and I
Yeah.
can't remember what it was. It's not, a familiar thing
Thing.
for me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because sometimes, like, I've heard this happen often where hospitals will, like, kidnap these babies and say, "Oh, they're at the extreme." Let's just say, I don't know the numbers off by heart, but let's say 50 is, like, the highest level of jaundice, and that is critical. This baby could die if they're not in hospital right away. And
Mhm.
doctors will just say like, "Oh yeah, she's like a 45, she's 45, 46. We have to get it there." But then when the parents look back at the like documentation, it's like maybe they were 30 or something. And
Oh,
it's
yeah,
not as extreme as what the hospital made it out to be, but they do that so that they can keep this child and this baby, under the lights for longer or whatever. And it's like, really, it wasn't that. But yes, they maybe had a light case of jaundice, but like you're saying, like maybe if you just fed it out of her, you held your baby and had skin to skin, then it probably would have left a lot quicker than her
right.
being in this little cage by herself with these lights getting pricked every 4 hours, not knowing what was going on. So yeah, I'm just curious. Like, I'm sure if you asked for your records, it would probably
Yeah, I
state
think I will
what
at this point.
what her
'Cause it
numbers,
I'm
yeah,
really curious at
what
this
her
point. Yeah,
numbers were. So that's
yeah,
always just something I always look to because it's like they'll say one thing to get you to stay because that's like they use the dead baby card. Well, your baby could die
mhm,
if you don't do this. So you have to
yeah.
do this. And of course, any mother, any parent is going to be
Any
like, oh my
parent,
God,
any
what?
mother, especially after you've just given birth and you're just
Yeah,
so disoriented and you're like, "What? There's something wrong. I have to take action."
exactly.
Even
Yeah.
with all the knowledge that I have, that was an area I didn't have that much knowledge in, so I couldn't
Yeah.
really I just didn't feel like I could fight against it.
Yeah.
Yeah, thankfully, my midwife was just my first midwife, was just like, "Okay, it's a little sunlight, she's good." She is a little
Yeah.
yellow, but yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it was
Totally.
fine. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Oh, what an experience though. Like I'm really sorry you had to go through that right after such a beautiful birth experience and then to have
Yes.
that polarity of, being received in the hospital in not a nice way and, all of these things, which is it's quite common for women to have a home birth, even if they have a midwife there present, or if
Mhm.
they did have a birth free of the system and then they need to go into the hospital for whatever reason,
Mhm.
that initial welcoming
Yeah.
most of the time isn't that gracious, which
Yes,
is
exactly.
really sad to set the tone right away. It's not like, "Oh, congratulations, you've had your baby, but let's like get them checked out and make sure everything's okay." You're
Yeah,
getting looked at as like, "You did that? Why would you be so reckless? Why would you
exactly.
be so stupid to birth your baby at home?" And
Mhm.
it's like, yeah, it's just so
I did
unfortunate.
it for her safety, and now I'm here, and you're pricking my baby for no reason and not telling me, and, like, she's
Yeah.
being traumatized in her own way, and
Yeah.
so, yeah, so for my mama duties, it was a big imprint on me, and
Of
it makes
course.
me question everything before I allow my kiddos to be exposed to it or be able to be, you know, um, subjected to any of that, so,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah,
Mhm.
it definitely helped me become a little bit of more of a warrior mom and a questioner, but at the same
Mhm.
time, I thought I did everything right.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
sorry, my youngest,
No,
like,
it's okay.
"Mommy."
And that's the thing, you did do everything right with all of the information that you had. at the
Right.
time, you were
Yeah.
being very blocked off from what it was that you did have. So it's like you're also in that survival mode now. It's like you've just birthed your baby and your
Yes.
child is being held captive right next to you, but you can't hold them, touch them, comfort them. And then somebody's doing all this stuff to them. And then it's like with the threat of them calling the police because you didn't get to the hospital in a freaking snowstorm fast enough.
Yes.
It's like,
Yeah.
well, what else would happen if I like picked up my baby? Who knows if they'll, try and cart me away or call CPS or, it's such a delicate balance to be in where it's like you unfortunately have to listen to them because if you do something quote unquote reckless,
Yeah.
CPS gets called and you're labeled
Exactly.
a negligent bad mother because you're not giving your child the care that they need. When it's like the care that my child needs is to be on my breast and my chest so we can have our
Exactly.
hour of skin to skin, right?
One second, my daughter's not stopping. Hold
Mm,
on.
no worries.
Her dad is right there.
Yeah.
I don't understand. But yeah, those like I have these little elderberry honey chews,
Mm.
and she's like, "Can I have one?" Like, that's literally what she was banging on the door frantically.
Aw.
Oh my god.
Oh, that's cute.
Yeah, yeah, but that was her experience, her first couple of weeks into this world, her first week into this world.
Yeah.
And then after that, went back home and, my mom came probably a week and a half
Okay.
after I birthed, maybe 2 weeks after that, and really, really helped out, but
Mm,
it was an interesting time because it was different because I'm in
mhm.
Maine at this point, and my
Yeah.
mom first flies to New Jersey. Oh, I should mention both my sister and I were pregnant at the same time, and she was due a couple of weeks after me. First,
Okay.
my original due date was December 11th and then or 10th, and her due date was like December, I don't know, 24th, 29th, something like that.
Mhm.
Um, so my mom comes up there first because it's just a cheaper flight from Florida to New Jersey. Goes there first, and then she tells me at the time that she's like, "Oh, you're fine, things are great." I'm like, "I'm having a mental breakdown, can you please just come up?" She's like, "Well, we're gonna go to Atlantic City first, but then I'll see you." And I'm like, "What?" So then that starts bringing up stuff because I'm like, "I'm having a hard time, like, why can't she get it?" And it's like mom stuff coming up, and then I'm coming up with stuff like, "Oh my gosh, like, how could I let my baby go through this kind of stuff?" And I'm like, "How do I become the mom she needs?" So
Mm,
that was just, like, kinda coming through, and it's such an emotional time when you first have a baby too, and, like, just all of it was swirling around me, postpartum, and, I was also in Maine, and I had just fully, like, a month ago, felt like I lived there.
mhm.
Even, like, every time we're going to the hospital, and if I would go home and take a shower or something like that, then coming back, I just felt so disoriented. I'm like, "Is this New York? Is this Maine?" Like, I just
Mhm.
didn't know where I was,
Mhm.
and I'm still settling into, like, where I live, and I'm isolated at the same time. I feel
Okay.
incredibly isolated because all of my family were in the New York, New Jersey area or Florida or, like, whatever. It's, like, so my easy access to people was kind of cut off. So I
Mhm.
felt very, very, very alone at this point. Thankfully, my mom came up soon after, and I was just like, whatever, come up. And she really did hug me again and hold me through the next couple of weeks.
Mm,
And then we did have his parents close by too. And so they were helpful pretty early on with like making soups and stuff. But it just, I don't know, like, my mom's support when she understands that I need it, is,
yeah.
like, 100% what I need at the time, so
Mm,
it was really nice to have that, but also, like, once she left, it was really hard for me again because 'cause I'm like, I feel very by myself up here, I feel, like,
mm,
cut off from my family, from, like, that feeling of, like, people around all the time at the very least,
yeah.
so that was really interesting, and postpartum was so much better my body-wise and, like, health-wise. I know that my thyroid was still off, but
Yep.
my prolapse didn't come back. In fact, it felt like it had recessed more than ever.
Ah,
Um,
okay.
so it just was, like, gone, it felt
Mm,
like. I mean, I'm sure there's, like, instances where it's still probably there, but it felt really, like, cured almost. Um, So the recovery was better. Thyroid was still off. I definitely felt that, but I was trying to be better about what I was eating.
Yeah.
And, like, my family's Haitian, so when my mom comes, she is making rice, and I think rice actually gets really gunked up in my body after birth, and it's not the best idea for me to eat. So I
Okay.
was trying to be better with that and maybe, like, combine it with more liquid, more soups. So that was definitely, like, something that I changed and shifted this time around, but still had the same, weight issues. Breast didn't get as big, thank God. So there was that, and it wasn't until, like, I was starting to really reemerge in March. Had to go back to work, of course, which was really interesting, but I was working fully from home and, starting to emerge around March and started going to some, like, mama baby yoga
Mm,
classes and, starting to meet new people, especially at this
mm.
particular class. It was really nice, and then a week later, the pandemic hit.
Oh my gosh.
And
Yeah.
I was like, "Oh my god." So, it was just yeah, it was just months and months and months later of, like, healing and being
Mhm.
by myself and being in my own energy and also being somewhat overwhelmed, mother of 2, also full-time job, also, wife, also husband dealing with all of this as well because he's 100% involved. Like, my husband
Mhm.
and I are true partners, and he really does, like, outside of the breastfeeding, which he can't do,
Yeah.
he really comes through with the work and, like, the help of, the children. So,
Mhm.
he's also kind of like it but it's just us, and, my
Mhm.
in-laws are there, and they're culturally, it's just very different, I think, as far as, like, where they see how they can be involved,
Mhm.
and, when they ask me "How are you? How are things going?" Like, I'm like, "Actually, we're drowning. Actually, things are pretty terrible. Actually, we need a lot of help," and it would just, like,
Mm,
go
yeah.
over their head.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
it was really interesting. I think we didn't get our stride or, like, keep our stride until about a year and a half later.
Wow.
So it
Okay.
was just like that overwhelm just continued, but through that, through having time on my own, through, like, mothering, through being up here, through being in my own energy, that's when I decided, "Hey, I'm actually" yeah, I didn't quit my job until 2022, and she was born in 2019,
Mhm.
but those 2 years were really important for me.
Yeah.
Those 2 years, I had enough time to myself, sort of, like, even though I
Mhm.
wasn't sleeping, but I got back into metaphysics. I got back into astrology and I deep dived into astrology. I deep dived into human design, which was new for me at that time.
Okay.
And it changed my perspective. It changed my life. I got deeper into the birth work that I absolutely love to do. I
Mm.
took innate postpartum's like 9-month course
Oh,
on,
you did that?
oh,
Oh, I
the
love
best,
it. Yeah, I did that
best.
in 2020 and the best
Yeah,
thing
I
that
did
I ever
2021.
did.
Yes, best thing I could have ever done for myself. Blew my mind about, like, how just all the cracks in my postpartum and what
Mm.
I could have done and what I wish I did.
Mhm.
Um, Such really important ancestral information that all of us need,
Yeah.
and that really I mean, it changed everything. It changed everything, like
Mhm.
and that's how I move with my clients now, that's how I move through the world now.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, I'm thankful for that time postpartum. I'm thankful for the isolation in a sense,
Yeah.
because I am a very open, energetic person, and I think, I would flow and sway with the expectations of my family and what they wanted to do or what they thought I should be and who I should be. So, um, blessings come out of like hard times. So I definitely think that that was like a beautiful and hard time at the same time. But yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Wow.
That's my story.
Yeah, it's beautiful and there is so much power in your story and all that you've shared. So I'm so grateful to hear that, and it's so beautiful to hear that you can take the blessings and all of the things that you learned even though you were in a lot of deep hardship for quite a while and quite a
Mhm.
time with you and your husband and your two children. But being able to see, okay, like, we're following the rainbow, and then we finally got to the pot of gold, like, it
Yes.
was worth it, whereas some people can turn it around and, just stay in a place of victim consciousness or saying like,
Mhm.
"Oh, woe is me, my life is just so terrible, it's just always, 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 always," but it's like when you can find those places and those pieces of information, knowledge, wisdom that can come from this hard time you're moving through, it's just like multiplies the power that you have for your future endeavors. So
Yeah.
that's so
Yeah.
beautiful that that's where you landed,
Oh my
especially
gosh.
after this beautiful birth experience, which seems it was the catalyst, at least
Yes.
how I see it, and yeah,
Yeah.
just allowed you to flourish even more in your motherhood, your womanhood, and everything.
Yeah, it was incredible. I wouldn't take it back, honestly. And
Mm,
even, like, those years of isolation is so helpful. I love my like, I can't even imagine the life I live right now. I absolutely love it now, and I live in this, like, sense of abundance every single day, and
mm,
everything's a blessing, and it's not like things don't get hard again, but it's just my perspective is so different
yeah.
from who it was back then. Like, it's
Yeah.
just it's awesome. Yeah.
Ah, I love that. That's so beautiful. And I'm really so grateful I got to hear your stories because they need to be heard. And yeah, I'm happy that I'm able to provide a platform for that.
Thank you for that.
Um,
Yeah, I
yeah.
appreciate it.
And I just want to ask because we are getting lower on the time and I don't want it to cut out before I ask this.
Mhm.
If any woman wanted to speak to you about your experiences in your postpartum times, your experience immediately after your freeborn baby was born, going to the hospital with the bilirubin and things like that, how could somebody get in contact with you?
Yeah, so my business is called The Celestial Womb, and, my website's thecelestialwomb.love, so that's one way, and another way is you can find me on Instagram by my name at Regina Verrett Foster, and those are really easy ways to get in contact with me.
Oh, beautiful. Amazing. Oh, Regina, I'm just so happy that we got to have this conversation. And yeah, I'm just like so happy.
Oh my god, thank you. Thank you so much for allowing me to tell my story and
Yeah.
having this podcast. I think it's super important for, women out there trying to decide what they wanna do and see the support and the different people that have gone through it. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, thank you.
thank you.
Thank you so much, women, for listening to this latest episode of the Free Birthing in Color movement. If you want to continue supporting this movement and all that comes with it, please give a 5-star rating and a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Like the videos on YouTube and share this episode with some of your friends. As reciprocity for the work that I'm doing and the content that I'm creating, it only takes 2 minutes to show your support through a 5-star rating, a small written review, and a share. If you want to give a monetary donation to help with the back end costs of keeping everything that is happening within this movement going, you can send your donations through PayPal via the link in the show notes. And again, as reciprocity for the work that I'm doing and creating, I'm so grateful when those donations come through. All information can be found within the show notes below. I'll see you in the next episode.